All right, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm so sorry for the delay. Long story short, the draft doc took a lot longer because I had to sim almost like a round and a half, and then everybody had, requests and stuff. So, but the draft doc is done. The ROM's not done, but the doc is done. So we can finally do a review. It's a little late, but that's fine. So Matt DeGeorge, Dynasty DeGeorge, could not be with us tonight. So much like last season, I had the longtime excellent drafter, snarky commenter, amazing reviewer who did a great job with me last season, Vikingmoe on the line. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
Hello.
So anyway, so we're just going to kind of get right to it. And I do want to read something, though, from Matt DeGeorge. He wanted me to read you guys a public service announcement. So real quick, and Eric, you're going to laugh at this. I quote, this is a text from him talking about the Buffalo Bills of HSTL season 45. Statement from GM DeGeorge. I want it to be known that in the beginning of the season, the league ridiculed the Buffalo Bills and their draft. As the GM, I am proud of the Buffalo Bills head coach and the players who were doubted this season. Jeff George and Jack Trudeau backdoored into the playoffs, and now they're backdooring their competition, sticking meat into the fudge hole. I haven't read this yet. Good luck, mofos. Exclamation point. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Jack Trudeau for the win. So that's a statement from Matt DeGeorge, just for everybody. He wanted me to read to you. So anyway, enough about season 45. Let's jump right into season 46. I know you have a lot to say. I think I have a lot to say. But do you want to go through the first round of picks, or would you prefer to go team by team? It's really up to you. It's your world. I'm just living in it.
Yeah, before we move on, I have to say that George clearly has a point. I mean, we both bashed your team, and results speak for itself. So, I mean, we're the ones eating crow right now. So, he's the one most qualified to do this right now. But we'll do our best. I think it was an interesting draft, right? Because it's a different format. Really awesome tandems in that first round that kind of ran dry, but some really questionable first round picks, even second round picks. So I'd be okay with going through some of those, and then we, make sure we hit every team so everybody has a little bit of analysis.
Sure, absolutely. I agree with you there. I will say some comments were made to me by a couple of longtime players that they thought the draft was very top heavy, and that the people in the back end of the back half or a little bit less of the draft, maybe like the last 10 to 12 picks, were always chasing the guys up top because of what was available to them. I might, I don't know if I agree with that. I'll probably get your thoughts on that. What I will say, though, is with some of these picks in those top 16 to 18 picks, just in the first 16 to 18, there should be no complaining because there were some head scratchers in here. So what do you think about that before we go into the picks? Was this draft top heavy?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's so many really good tandems that they're bound to run dry. Now, the good thing was that there was still plenty to be had. It's just a matter of you didn't maybe get as much value in things at the end. So I can see that. I think they still built some pretty darn good teams. But at the same time, maybe that will help create a little bit more parity, because if you're picking at the bottom, you probably did pretty well. So, and then you got guys at the top that maybe need a little more help. So maybe it helps create a little more parity, and that's okay.
Sure. All right. So let's kind of go through this a little bit and see what we like and what we don't like. Maybe we kind of review the first round-ish, and then we'll go team to team. So,
sure.
Thank you, Tondrietti, for doing the right thing and picking QB Eagles. It had been a season since that was done, and how exciting that someone did that correctly. So kudos to you. Although I would have laughed really hard if you had passed, because the MAC in round 0 could have had pick number 2, and he chose to drop down to pick 14. And if you had passed on QB Eagles, and Casual probably would have passed you actually, because he's had him before. I don't know how far down he would have dropped. Maybe even the player. I bet you Drake might have passed. You would have lost. The Mac would have lost QB Eagles 2 seasons in a row. So, I mean, that would have been really funny. I was kind of pulling for that. But in any event, so QB Eagles went first. But now here's my head scratcher. So, to me, I think James Brooks and Fulcher is a better pick than Neil Anderson and Mark Carrier. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so also. But Mark Carrier is like I mentioned, is a little polarizing because people either really love him or think he's overrated. You know, there's something to be said about his 81 int. It really, those 63 pass control quarterbacks, you know, have to be a little more leery. I think Joey Gatso has been a big proponent of Mark Carrier. So you either really like him or you think he's a little overrated. I mean, he's still great to have on your team. You get the little bit better running back, but for my taste, I would have probably taken Fulcher and Brooks as well.
Yeah, I just think that for what you lose for like the 1 tick of MS, I mean, granted, you can put Anderson at wide receiver because I think he's 50 reception, but what you lose from 1 tick in MS from Neil Anderson to Brooks, you know, you gain. I know Carrier's 81 interception. I think it's 81, right? Is it 75 or 81? It's 81. It's 81 interception. So, I mean, I know that's 2 ticks ahead of Fulcher, but I mean, Fulcher, hands down, in my opinion, is the best defender in the game. You know, if you don't care about the HP, you could argue that Haddix is a better defender than Fulcher. But it's definitely, in my opinion, between those two. So if you could have James Brooks and Fulcher, to me, that is, aside from QB Eagles, the second best pick in this draft. Now the question is for you, Eric, is would you have picked Anderson and Carrier 3, or how far down would they have dropped for you?
Yeah, hard to say. That's a good question. I mean, I think if say, you know, I'm sitting at 3, I still might want to take Joe Montana because I can appreciate the value of these tandems, but still Joe Montana, you know, or you know, some of these elite quarterbacks. That's just hard to stop, you know. So I would still think that's a pretty good pick, and you know, I know someone would probably like Mark Carrier better than me, so I can still see it maybe top 5 or top 7 for sure.
Sure. So kind of, we don't have to, I mean, it's the people at the top, you know, belong in the top. Although, you know, a couple of notes here. A, this is the first time since I've been commissioner or even part of HSTL. So I've been in HSTL. I think I took over for Red Set Hut in season 33, when he basically had a whole Cowboys team for the Bills. So I even took over, and I think 33 was the first year I drafted. Regardless, this was the first season since I've been in HSTL, which is going on 13, I think, in a row, that Montana, Bo Jackson, and QB Bills, any one of them, any combination of them, fell out of the top 5 picks. 4 picks, actually. Someone was always in the top 4. So, wow. I mean, in looking at the comments, I could look at the edit history. I don't know if you wrote most of them, or if Drake wrote them, or if whoever wrote them, or if Matt DeGeorge wrote them. But regardless, I will say, even though Montana is better than Moon, I love Moon. Like, I had my best season with Moon. I just like the extra passing speed of Moon. But I know Joe is better. I think the unfortunate part is when I had some of these really good players, you know, earlier, before season 40, you know, when I first got in the league, I wasn't the player I am now. And I think if I had Joe Montana now, instead of when I had him, I think back in like season 36 or 37, I think I would have been better with him. But regardless, so just going down the list, aside from Moon over Montana, what is the first pick that you see that you thought was just a huge head scratcher?
Well, for me, it's, I guess, I mean, I don't know if it's a huge head scratcher, but it kind of started with Dan Marino over QB Browns. I know that's just a different flavor, but I mean, QB Browns, I mean, come on. he's just. I mean, I like him a little bit better than maybe even some of the others. But I think the biggest one for me, I think the LT pick is, as much as I love linebackers and LT, that's really, really early, especially with no value. I don't get that at all. And then Vinny Testaverde at 12 doesn't make much sense to me either when there's so much other stuff to be had. So, I mean, a lot of those picks, like almost those three almost in a row there, are all big head scratchers to me.
Yeah, I would definitely tend to agree with you. I can't imagine if you're not taking one of the elite quarterbacks, which clearly they were gone by pick 10. If you're not taking one of the elite quarterbacks, I don't know how you don't take a tandem where you're getting a 2-for-1. I just don't get it. I mean, look how far. I mean, we can look, but look how far Mike Singletary fell with no. Granted, he's only 19 interception, but I mean, he fell to round 3, I think. Did he finally go in round 3? I don't.
Or further, maybe he was down there.
Seemed like
he was there forever.
So, round 5. So, I mean, think about that. That LT went in round, in the top 12, and Mike Singletary. Whoever picked LT could have had Mike Singletary in round 5, and the only difference besides a little bit of speed is the interception. I mean, that's just that's crazy to me. So to me, I thought LT was a huge reach, specifically because, as the comment says on the doc, I absolutely would have gone Green Ellard if you wanted a linebacker, grab Ellard too. Now Vinny at 12, we could talk all night about this, but I mean, real quick, is this the highest he's ever gone in league history?
Well, as far as I know, I mean, he's been in the first round before, clearly. I mean, but this seems really early, especially with all the other value there. It doesn't make much sense to me at all. But, I don't know. There's a lot of questionable picks by Eifert sucked. I think his team sucked. So,
well, I think he kind of missed like a whole. We started picking for him too. I think he missed some picks. So
yeah.
So just kind of going further down, I don't know if you have anything before Dolo's pick. I mean, Roger Craig, and Dave Waymer. I think it's a matter of which defender you prefer, and because you like Waymer, I think that's why you get Craig too. To me, I think it's worth having Haddix over Waymer, personally. So like if I want Waymer, I grab Haddix and then take a running back later down the line. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I mean, you had 56 MS running backs going in the second round. I understand it's a 2-for-1, but that's just my 2 cents on that. Same thing with the Mac getting Thurman Thomas and Leonard Smith. I just don't know how you don't go Johnny Bailey. Take a tick less MS and grab Stinson. So I mean, I fully agree with that comment there. But then the big head scratcher for me, because I mean, I think I talked to you about it. I talked to War Machine about it. I don't understand what Dolo was doing picking Rod Woodson. So Dolo at pick 16 chose to have a single value pick, single player pick with Rod Woodson, which I think Gatz ran a whole defense one season with Rod Woodson. Rod Woodson's good, but if he was gonna take a DB and wanted one DB, why not take Haddix? Or, I mean, I told you, I told War Machine, I think I told everyone who would listen, I was convinced. Marcus Allen and Eddie Anderson, my pick right after him, had Dolo written all over it. It was basically his 56 MS running back that he's had for multiple seasons in a row now, and it was a manable DB, faster than that level where it's just, fast enough to be too slow that Stinson and Carrier at, even though he doesn't have high interception, he's only at 50, whatever. I just thought that had his, I was thankful he didn't pick it, but taking Woodson instead of Haddix, or even Herschel and Browner for that matter, just makes no sense to me. What do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of what I put in the comment. Took essentially just Woodson over Haddix, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I know he's had Woodson in seasons before when he had some pretty good defense, so maybe he's just a little more enamored, and I guess to each his own. But yeah, I mean, with the pick that you ended up getting right afterwards, I thought was a great value. So it worked out for you, at least.
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, that's the pick I wanted. I thought that was the best case scenario for me, and it worked out for me. Going down the line, I mean, so I got to be honest. I had a heart to heart with Prime, and I said Prime. I know, and I know you and Prime have your thing, but like, I had a heart to heart with Prime, and I said, buddy, here's the deal. You're a good player, but nobody cares if you win with a crappy team, an average team, or whatever team. And I get that you want depth and whatever else, but you just got to take the best pick on the board if you want to do it that way. There's no pride in taking Johnny Johnson at 50 MS and Tim McDonald, at that just fast enough to be too slow, 56 interception level, just to prove, whatever, that you have an average depth team. So I had a talk with him. He actually agreed with me because he's a good player. Prime is on that short list of players in the past year or two. I don't even know how long he's been around that have just drastically improved their play, as the time has gone on. And to be honest with you, Prime's in a tough division. The NFC West used to be stacked. Now it's kind of like him and Nas, and depending on who's in there and how well they're playing, some other guys. And I got to tell you, Prime always, makes the playoffs, rises to the top, is always in it with these average guys. So, I don't want to beat him up anymore because, I did talk to him about it. But, I'm sure, do you want to say a few words on this pick?
I can beat him up for you. No, I would agree with you. I don't get it. And my comment kind of, mentioned that. It's just these are two pretty average players, are usable players, but at that pick in your first round, is that what you want, or do you want a difference maker? It's almost like he's anti-elite players. When I think if you give someone with some skill like he has, at least an elite player gives you that edge to really be a game breaker, really, on either side of the ball. And he could have had one on either side of the ball, mostly probably a defender or or an elite runner, and he chose not to do it. And he's not going to break through until he's lets himself use an elite player.
Yeah, I would. I maybe tend to agree with that. So we can move on now. Jerry Rice at 19. Is that 19? Yeah, Jerry Rice at 19 is about where he goes. So at this point, that you have. I think I agree with whoever was drafting at this point. You have to take the elite guy over the tandems. Like, for example, obviously, depending on what kind of team you want to build. Like Herschel Walker and Joey Browner, I don't know. Like, so if you look at Rico's pick of Herschel Walker and Browner, and you look at Randy Wagg's pick of Bobby Humphrey and Dennis Smith, which, by the way, way to go, guys, giving Randy Wags a 63 MS running back. But, what would you do? I don't know. I don't know what's is it just based on preference of which, if you want the defender or not? Because honestly, with Walker and Browner, if it's me, to me that's a DB pick, and I would take Haddix. Anybody who picked a DB with even a usable guy with him, to me, should have picked Haddix. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with getting the value. Roger Craig with Wayne was the other example with that, right? And it makes sense. I don't think it's a wrong pick. Walker's pretty versatile as well, like Craig is. So I think in those picks, they're getting a little bit of value. So maybe they can have to make a single pick later, and that's finally fine. And the same with Bobby Humphrey. You're basically getting a running back with a okay DB, but getting a little bit of value. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Necessarily, you're giving up a little bit by taking Browner versus Haddix, but you're getting something else to return. But is it that much better? I see your argument. It makes sense. What doesn't make sense is Jerry Rice versus the Ellard and Green pick. Because I think Ellard's, obviously a little slower than Rice, granted, but he's still really good. And then you get a really good linebacker. So I like that pick better.
Yeah, but I mean, Ellard is a lot slower than Jerry Rice. If I remember correctly, isn't Jerry Rice 63, 63? 69 ms to 56 ms? I mean, that's a big difference, man. Depending on, I don't remember which QB Hawk got, and we can look, but I mean, I don't think you need to take Ellard and Green instead of Jerry Rice. Like, I think that if you want the best wide receiver, that's what you do there, kind of thing. But I mean, tomato, tomato. So we can kind of keep moving on. Surprised at Zur, but granted, he still got his normal team. He just got the best, in my opinion, one of the best DBs in the game. Haddox at 22 is crazy.
Yep.
The picks too show you that people either value offense, aside from Prime here, offense, or value DBs instead of linebackers. Because I mean, I honestly thought Ellard Green would be a top 15 pick or a top 20 pick. I'm surprised Ellard and Green fell so low. I even considered Ellard and Green, but I just, I did that one season when there was tandems. The best tandem on the board was Anthony Carter and Millard.
Keith Millard.
And I took that, and that was before I was as good as I am now at linebacker play. But you're kind of hamstrung when you've got a 19 interception linebacker because especially when you're playing better QBs, it's like, what are you doing? So anyway, going the rest of the first round, I also think Richard Johnson dropping to 25 is ridiculous. Martin Mayhew dropping to 26, and Gatz having Mayhew. I mean, good luck, AFC West. That's all I got to say. I mean, Gatz has proven that he can pretty much run a whole defense with just like Dion. So having like Dion on steroids, basically with the the interception of Mayhew, plus all he needs is a 44 ms running back because of his maneuverability, whether he's tapping online or not. Good luck, NFC West. That's all I got to say. I think that, rounding out the first round, I just think War Machine and Old Dirty basically, if they want running backs, that's what they do. And I think what they both did, it kind of worked out for them. So I think we kind of already went over the egregious picks. I don't think we need to go into round two unless, is there anything you want to touch on in round two that you thought was a super reach?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just a little surprised that, that Gilbert fell into the second round. I thought, maybe, still a pretty elite, DB there that they, War Machine or Old Dirty Tecmo could have maybe grabbed there. So I thought that was interesting. Thought Dave Craig was a little early in the second round as well. But and then of course Prime's classic overdrafting of Ken O'Brien continued. So
yeah, I mean, I talked to him about that too. He said he's never played in a league without a 50 PC QB, so he might try differently. But I mean, I think what's interesting about that. So Ken O'Brien is 5650, I think, and yep. I think the last 44 guy was taken in round. It wasn't round 8, round 7.
It was late.
I mean, it's just crazy. Or round 6. Maybe I'm trying to look on the doc right now, but it was round 6. Round 6 was the last 44 guy. So it was pick 6-8. So, I mean, if you could have gotten something else in that slot and still gotten a 44 guy 4 rounds later, it's just crazy. So, anyway, yeah. Going back.
If I can, I just want to highlight maybe a couple other things, and I'm getting into the third round, but the pick by Tundra Yeti, Kyle Clifton, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. It just doesn't make any sense to me. There's so many bigger impact players that just really stood out. And then, of course, I went a little crazy when I saw Troy can go in the third round again. So that just drove me nuts, especially when you know how late.
Well, if we just want to jump around a bit, then too, how about the fact that Nas, of all people, got Andre Ware in round 7, round 6?
Yeah.
Round 7, I think he got. I'm trying to look now where he got him. It wasn't round 8, was it? No.
Well, and then some guys.
No, it was round 5. He got Andre Ware in round 5. Like, I mean, are you kidding me? And here's what I don't get. I mean, and I understand people were scared of the 38 PC. I think Andre Ware is better than every single 44 guy. So, I mean, to not put value on the 25 MS of Ware is just ridiculous to me. So, I mean, anyone who took, I mean, if you were going to reach on a QB, reach on like an Andre Ware. Don't reach on, someone else in a sense. But like, what else did you want to talk about on that?
Yeah, well, I think again, it's just Troy Aikman. I don't get it. I don't get it. But then I think you looked at the 44 guys starting to go, and it started shortly after Aikman went with the MAC. He took Scott Mitchell, and like we said, you could have got a 44 or 44 like 3 rounds later. Yeah. So I don't. I mean, that's really going to hurt his team. I think we do that. So I think that hurt quite a bit.
Plus, John Elway going 315 above some of these other guys also made no sense to me. I mean,
Elway tends to be a 3rd round quarterback for right or wrong. I don't know. I see him in the 3rd round quite a bit. I guess I was a little surprised to see him there, but I think people got scared. Like, oh, Aikman went. I better get my quarterback because he's terrible. So I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely
got a little scared.
Someone definitely started the QB run. I think Drake did it. Because I mean, I know you don't agree with me, but I think Steve Young at 226 was a reach all day. I definitely think that was a reach because the only thing you're getting there is, I don't know. I just think he's a reach. But
when you consider how much later Ware went, who's not all that different than Young, yeah, you could argue that.
Yeah, but I mean, I like Drake's team, and I've been saying that I like, the speed he has and whatever else. But regardless, then we can talk about all the reaches of QBs, but we don't have to do that. And then, why do you think? I assume you wrote the comment. Why were you so down on the Giants O-line for Prime instead of a different O-line?
Well, mostly because it was Prime. But otherwise, I'm just kidding. But I think I mentioned some other ones there because I think Chicago O-line is there. You get a 50 MS kick returner with them. New Orleans is there that you get a 44 MS kick returner with them. In Houston, you get a good kick returner there as well. The Rams and Washington just has better hitting power across the board. So if you just wanted hitting power, why didn't you just take Washington? And the only thought is that, okay, you got Mark Navarro, who has high hitting power, comes to the Giants, but that's really it. So to me, I thought there were just a lot better options. That's maybe why I did that.
Sure. I think other than that, that's all I have for reaches. But one second, our surprise guest can actually come in. So I'm just setting that up right now.
Nice. I will make some comments while you're doing that about game high strategy. Aside from
no, I want to wait on Graham High strategy till we do the team pages because I'm gonna jump all over that.
I'll save it for you then. That's great.
Well, no, I mean you can definitely give your 2 cents.
Well, I mean I love linebackers as much, if not more, than anybody. So, but it just was, I don't know. It's an interesting strategy. I guess I can leave it at that and let you, go on your rant. But definitely some big overdrafting of linebackers, and we'll see if it works out for him. But I don't get it. But I didn't get his pick of Moon over Montana either. So
yeah, I agree with you there. But I mean, there's a whole. I mean, we're gonna really go into game high. So I think we can go into the team pages. Why don't we start with, Pittsburgh's at the top, so why don't we just start with the AFC Central. So the AFC Central in season 45, surprisingly, was really weak. I mean, aside from Tecmo Bowl winning the division, everyone was under 500, and it's been always seen as the really strong division. So I don't know if Stall Talk Sean just didn't care or whatever. But anyway, hold on one second though. Our surprise guest is here. Can you talk? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, guys?
All right, guys. We have a special treat here just to prove to everybody that he does exist and he's alive. We have War Machine on with us on this review pod. Buddy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you.
So
listening into you guys. Great analysis.
So you guys can all hear his voice. He's a real person. He's not a robot.
I'm not a bot. Yeah.
I know there was questions about it before, but
I think for a while people thought I was like an alias because I was like pretty good early on when I first started. But now, I mean, just enjoying the podcast tonight.
For the record, yeah. For the record, every time we played in TPC, you got all the goddamn breaks against me, and it pissed me the hell off. Literally, I hated every time I played you. I didn't want to play you anymore. So anyway, but
nice to meet you, buddy. I kind of missed the last few minutes, so I'm not sure where you guys were.
Well, we were just kind of finishing up our review of reach picks in the first 3 rounds. Do you have anyone you want? Yeah, we kind of beat on Prime a little bit. We beat on Eifer a little bit. We beat on some other people. But do you have anything you want to add to it about just some reaches, that you want to talk about?
I mean, I think just Vinny obviously going at number 11, and I think LT was kind of early too. Those 2 were pretty much the ones that I thought were the biggest ones. I know Prime took his typical Prime picks, the average across the board. But other than that, I mean, I think it was pretty straightforward. Maybe you can nitpick, I guess, early on with like maybe the number 2 and number 3 pick with Fulcher and Carrier. So, but overall, I thought it was pretty straightforward. It kind of sucked picking at the end. I was talking to Diaz a little bit on IM. It just felt like we were always missing out on all either the tandems or, we were sort of playing from behind for the most part. Most of the guys that had the Austin tandem up front kind of had the advantage going on, later on in the draft, being able to take to like plug our holes in. So it was a pretty fun tandem draft. I enjoyed it. I thought it was different, so it was good.
Yeah, I think for next season, I'm going to probably vote up doing this again, which people probably will hate, or flipping it like we did last time and switching running back to go with linebacker and wide receiver to go with DB like we've done before. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably do that vote pretty early. But all right, let's get on to the team reviews. And just so everyone knows, we our War Machine, just so you know, if you have your computer on or whatever, I just have the Google Doc on the stream, and that's pretty much what everyone's looking at. So so basically we're going to start with the AFC Central because that's the first pick of the draft. And just looking at Tundrietti's team, my quick thoughts are I'm glad he grabbed Duncan, but I wish he had a faster guy to pair with QB Eagles, to be honest with you. I think that I don't think it's good that he got McMillan, but I think he's a little slow. Is that Blair Thomas? I think he's got it running back 1. I mean, it's a good team. The Pitt OL, he's going to have the 44-match kick returner. The San Diego defensive line is average, but he's got the good kicker. I mean, it's not a bad QB Eagles team. I mean, what do you guys think?
I just think that that Moore Clifton pick really crippled him a little bit. Because could have got a really big, impactful player there on either side of the ball, and maybe he just really likes Clifton. I don't really get it, but I think that pick really hurt him because now he's, like you said, maybe could have got a little faster wide receiver, maybe could have got a little faster running back, but he's basically got the Jets defense, sans Dennis Byrd, which isn't that great, and then I guess. He's got a QB Eagles, so I think it could have been a little bit better, but it's not.
Yeah, that's actually a key point, is if he had foregone getting the nickel back with Clifton, which I think people have watched streams and seen a multitude of people now have success at using either Reasons or Me with Dent or I mean, Eric, even you with Ray Agnew or Lloyd or whatever guy you have, or even War Machine with whatever guy he has, as more and more people see people utilize the nickelback, I think they kind of get enamored with it. And to be honest, if you look at his team, he doesn't have an impact linebacker. So, I mean, he has no lurching guy. People can pretty much put, because you're not going to put Clifton at LB4. So you basically are going to be able to do the run to dive on him at will. And I mean, and his defense, honestly, is a little slow. I mean, McMillan's his fastest guy, and I mean that's not really saying much. So, just food for thought on all that. I mean, War, you have anything you want to add?
No, I think I agree with you guys. I think at the time, I think he had Gary Clark, because I think I was chatting with him a bit. You know, he was getting some advice. I think Gary Clark was an option that he was considering, I think, over the Clifton pick. He ended up with Duncan, who's 50-63 versus 50-75. So I don't think there was much speed at wide receiver left. I think maybe Tim Brown and possibly 56 from Washington. The name slipped in my mind, but
it's Ricky Sanders. That's Ricky
available at that point. Yeah, so I think I'm okay with it. I mean, because Clifton, he wouldn't be there in round 4, I don't think, or on the way back. But I think it's a solid QB Eagles team. I think he should be fine. If you have QB Eagles and you use them right, you probably wouldn't be throwing too much anyway. So I'm okay with like having Duncan as his primary receiver. And defense, I mean, it is slow, but I think he should be able to get stops. There's enough there, I think.
I guess what I'm going to say is any single person who took a primary linebacker over Singletary that did not have a good tandem partner, like Rob Moore, aside from what he did to me in TTL with Flash, is not good. I would say that anyone who didn't take Mike Singletary should have. And I don't care that Clifton's got 50 interception. It's still not worth it over Singletary. Because Singletary's HP is impactful. He is literally going to break through the line on every guy 50 or higher? 50 or lower. Right. He'll break through, I think, like half the time on a 50 guy, even more of the time on a 44 guy, like, almost guaranteed on a 44 guy. You throw him even at linebacker 1 where everyone puts their crappy left tackle. I mean, come on. I just think that's more, even if you don't want to man him and you man McMillan, that's more impactful, in my opinion, than, getting Clifton and using him as a nickel. But that's just me. But we can kind of, plus, key point too, if you look at the QBs in his division, I mean, he's got BJ Tolliver, for Stahl. He's got Vinny Testaverde, okay, but it's only 56, PC. And he's got Jim Everett. So Jim Everett's tough. But Clifton's too slow to keep up with Everett anyway, so I don't know. Anyway, we're probably taking too much time on just one team, so we can kind of plow through here. Stall Talk is the next team. This is a different Stall team. I don't remember ever watching him play with a high PC QB or high PS QB. It's going to be interesting for me. But, when you've got Bo Jackson, I don't think he's passing much anyway. And I think when he does, he's going to dump the ball off. I remember when I had Jackson, he was my leading receiver, even though I had Flipper, just because I just tried to dump the ball to him as much as possible. It looks like he's got he's got BG Tolliver as his QB, Jackson, and then he's got Deion Sanders as primary defensive guy. And I don't think I see. He doesn't have any good linebackers either. So that's kind of crazy that we've got two teams now in the Central that don't have a lurchable, diveable, whatever you want to call it, linebacker 4. And then Stahl has the Miami offensive line, which comes with the bonus of Edmonds and Jensen. So I know he's got Edmonds and Jensen, maybe for the hitting power or whatever, but honestly, for me, I just don't. I mean, it's not like the high reception of Jensen's going to help. I don't really know what's going to happen there. Plus, you kind of want someone fast with him, so I don't really know. Once again, he's not going to be throwing much, probably, but he doesn't really have anybody to, in my opinion. Well, he's got Mervin Fernandez, but that's his fastest guy. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the good thing about Jensen is that maybe he won't have as many drops from BJ, I guess that would maybe be helpful. I could see the dump offs to Jackson being frustrating sometimes. 31 PC to 19, receptions spells drop quite often. So, but otherwise, I mean, I think Stahl's a pretty talented defender. I think he could do pretty good work with just really Dion, and then he also has Bruce on the line. So, I mean, I think he'll be fine. It'll be fun to see what he does with Bo Jackson.
Oh, I missed Bruce. I must have missed that when I was looking across. Yeah, does he have the Buffalo? Oh, yeah, he does. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting, actually. Although, I think everyone who I've talked to who's had Bruce said he's overrated, but I don't know. War, you have any comments?
I think it's just Stall Talk has Bo Jackson. I mean, he's just going to pretty much wreck that division for the most part. I think, Tecmo Bo is going to give him some competition. But, I mean, having Bo Jackson, I had him the one year where I think I covered for QB Lions. I took over his team, so I had a chance to play with him. And it's just, if you get him in the hands of someone like Stall Talk, who's so smart and knows how to use him and is just a smart player overall, I mean, I think it's just going to be tough for teams to stop him. And I think he has enough on defense. Dion is sort of a one-man defense. He can play the run and the pass. So I think Stahl is going to be fine. I'm definitely curious to see how he's going to handle, having BJ, back there at quarterback.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think he's going to run. I don't think he's going to pass very much. But when people load up on the run, I think the only person, one of the scariest people I'd ever see with Bo might be Gatz, just because of what Gatz can do with the movement. I can't imagine him just kind of running behind the line for 5 minutes until a hole opens up and is going. But moving on to who's next here, Eifert. So Eifert, is a weird situation because he kind of missed a bunch of his picks, and so his team is kind of his, kind of not. I mean, it's okay. He's got Vinny. He's got Clayton, who's kind of like his version of Mark Carrier. He's got his 50 MS running back. He's got the jack of all trades, Highsmith, with his Manable DB in Holt. Thank you, War Machine, for the auto pick there. I think that he has another fast DB in Washington from the Raiders. I mean, it's okay. I don't think he's going to compete with Stahl or Tecmo Bo just because he hasn't yet. But I mean, his team's not bad per se. What do you guys think?
I think he has Derek Thomas there too, if I'm reading that right. So I mean,
oh yeah, you're right. He does. He does have Derek Thomas.
So Derek Thomas, that's pretty big there also. So and then Holt's usable. So I mean, it's not bad. I think when you think about getting Vinny, I guess that's going to be the key, right? Because that was his big first-round pick. So if he can make it work with Vinny, then it's actually not a terrible team.
Yeah, but who's he throwing to? I mean, he's not. Is he just going to? Clayton's a little slow. So I mean, is he just going to jack it up? I mean, the key to Vinny, and I think War Machine can go and further this because he loves his mobile QBs, and Nas would probably say the same thing. Is just that you got to be able to move around and scramble, and if you're not good at that or that's not your thing, then I don't know. Plus, if people don't remember, Eifert is a huge LT guy. He loves Lawrence Taylor in this game. So getting Thomas is just his way of getting Lawrence Taylor, although obviously Thomas isn't as good because of the interception and the HP rating. But what do you think about this, War?
Yeah, Eifert is really good with mobile quarterbacks. I think he's had Rodney Peete the last 2 seasons, if I remember correctly. And I remember when he was in my division, he was really tough to stop with a mobile quarterback. He knows how to use them. He knows when to throw the ball, when to run. So I think Vinny fits his style. I just he should have moved back in the round 0 if you want to take him that early. But his team is solid. I think he has enough at all positions to be fine. I just think with him sort of being on that long layoff coming back, you can tell he still has a little bit of rust to get off. But I mean, I could see him being 7-9, 8-8, maybe something like that. I think he has enough for his style of play, so I think he'll be fine with some breaks.
So this next team, Tecmo Bo, is actually Brewdog's favorite team of anybody's because he and I were talking and going through it a bit, and he says Tecmo Bo, in his opinion, is the best team of the draft. So kind of going through it, you got your 63 PC QB, for Tekmobo. You got your 50 MS running back and Rozier. You got your blocking and Haddix. You've got your elite DB and Bird, which, fun fact, when Brewdog was looking through stats, Bird has like 50 less interceptions in HSTL history than Mayhew, and he has no idea why, because they're like the same. They're the same DB. So he just thought that was interesting. He's got Sterling Sharp, who is, fat. He's going to be able to throw to the JJCC, whatever you want to do with him. Hester is a compliment to Sharp, for the high, to complement the PC of Everett. And, that's pretty much the Phoenix offensive line isn't terrible. The Denver defensive line is, nothing to care about, but they have a good kicker. So I don't see any holes here. Does he have a linebacker? I keep missing the linebackers.
David Little, I think.
Yeah, he's got. So Little is little. So but he's fast. He's just fast enough. He's just little. But you can definitely use him as a nickel too. Although I don't really see a world where you're not going to be using Bird. But still, regardless. This is. What do you guys think?
It's a really good team. I think Phoenix also gives them a 50 max speed kick returner, but they do have 238 HP guys in there. So depending on the matchup, that can sometimes mess things up a little bit. But I think when you Everett to Sharp, that's pretty awesome. And then Rozier to keep things balanced. The offense is totally set, and he can do work as good as anyone else with Gil Bird. So I like it.
Yeah, for the record, I play both Tecmo Bowl and Stall Talk this season, so it's going to be tough noogies for me. But I'll tell you though, real excited though to have my defensive line go against the Phoenix offensive line. To be honest, so not too excited about playing Bo Jackson, but we'll see how that goes. So that's it for the Central. I don't think we want to do predictions. I think we can do that in a separate pod. Let's just kind of keep plowing through the divisions. Next up is the NFC Central, since that's pick number 2, and that's Casualty. God bless Casualty. He seems to kind of come up real short every season, still sticks around, moves himself over the draft, drafts different things every season, trying to keep it fresh. So hats off to him. There's not a lot of people who can lose as often as he does and stay around. So I got to give him credit. But anyway, going through his draft, he was the big contentious Neil Anderson, Mark Carrier pick. Still think it should have been Brooks and Fulcher. But the rest of his team, he's got Magic Man for QB. He's got Lippett as his manable DB. Glasgow could hurt depending on the quarterbacks in his division, which I think you've got Sims, War. Who else is in your division? Zer's got Schrader, which won't matter. Oh, he's going to use Wilhelm, not Schrader. He'll just be back and being Drew Hill per usual. Rico's got the Berg. So I think that he could have some trouble there. People can kind of eat up Glasgow a little bit there, but regardless, looking through the rest of it, is that Carl? Oh, that's Chip Banks. That's Bill Brooks. So he's got Bill Brooks at wide receiver. He's got Mike Singletary, which was a huge steal for me in round 5. I just can't believe, I don't care who his tandem is. Singletary falling to round 5 is just ridiculous. And then he actually took what I wanted to do. I wanted Burden and Hackett real bad. And he took him in the round that I wanted them. So he's got that as a second high HP guy. He can even put Hackett down at LB4 and put Singletary LB1 for the left tackle thing and the field goal blocking. The New England offensive line gives him Marv Cook, even though he does have 138 HP guy in there. And then the Phoenix defensive line kicker punter. That's tough because, if a game comes down to a field goal, he's got the worst kicker in the game tied with Lansford and Del Greco. So I don't even know what the range of a 19 kicking ability guy is. And what is it, like the 45-yard line? I'm not even sure. Does anyone know?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, and regardless, though, it's just going to be tough for him anyway because he's in a tough division with Rico and Zier. I'm sorry. Gats told me it's Zier now. It's Zier? Is that what he said? I don't remember what he said in our pod. I think he said Zier.
Zooer.
Like Zoo-er?
Yeah, I think so.
Fun fact, I don't know if you guys were reading the HSTL channel on Discord, but he actually asked me if I owned a boat. So I've only been talking about my boat, how many times in the chat about why things are skipping or why I'm not available, whatever. Oh, you own a boat? So anyway, we're not going to go any further on casual. We can kind of leave it at my little summary there. We got Tampa with Big Red. So got to go back here on the stream here. So he was real excited to get QB Browns because he says he had an unfulfilling season with QB Browns, but finished on a 5-game win streak. So first of all, here's hoping QB Browns doesn't get hurt because Jimmy Mack is his backup, and we just saw Jimmy Mack, while he played admirably for Rico in the playoffs, whatever. He drafted a lot of Browns on this team, but he's got his 44 MS running back, which should be enough with QB Browns. He actually has Worley too, who I ran for over 1,000 yards with. For Woodruff, I think he's going to be using Woodruff as his man DB. Is that Eric Martin? It's got to be Eric Martin as his primary wide receiver, it looks like. Yeah.
No, I think he has...
Givens.
Yeah, somehow.
He's got Givens. So he's got Givens and Martin, and he actually has Dwight Stone, who's a little underrated, but so he's got Greg Lloyd. So I almost think it might be the Greg Lloyd show, honestly. I think that... I don't know if I think Woodruff is 38, 44, 56. So he's kind of like that just fast not to be too slow thing that I always keep saying. But he's got the Cleveland offensive line and Cleveland defensive line, which isn't spectacular either way. So what Rico, or not Rico, War Machine, he's in your division. What do you think? I mean, are you scared of this team?
I think anytime there's a team with like QB Browns and Ernest Givens, it's always scary. I mean, just any given week, you can just get JJ to death. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be tough to stop him on offense. Obviously, with QB Browns, but defensively, I mean, it's lacking. Last year, he had, I think, maybe one of the best defenses maybe ever in HSTL, and struggled with it. So, yeah, I think it'll be tough to stop him. But I think he's skilled enough, I think, where he can go like 9-7 and 10-6, I think. I think that's probably like his ceiling. But it's going to be tough to stop, I think.
Any thoughts you want to add there, Eric?
No, I think it's, like you said, it's Browns the given show, and hope and pray you can get a stop on defense, and that's pretty much the formula.
Okay, so moving on to Zeuer. So Zeuer did his normal Zeuer team. He's got his 44-44 QB. He has he only has a 44 MS running back, but he can probably throw wide receiver. Bentley. He has Haddock's the best DB in the game, but he usually gets one of the elite DBs as his primary defender. And then his receivers are Drew Hill and James Lofton. There's two options, and Cornelius Bennett is his linebacker of choice. Mecklenburg can probably go at DB or at LB1 for field goal blocks. Seattle LL, which is one of the average ones, and the Jets defensive line, which doesn't really come with much except he's got a good kicker. So this is a standard Zeuer team that he goes anywhere between 10-6 to 12-4 with every season. So what do you think? You just beat him, actually, War. So
I always beat Zeuer.
He beat you this season, though, didn't he?
I know he did, yeah. I mean, like you said, it's a typical Zeuer team. It's a JJ team. And having Haddock there is a big difference, though. So, I mean, he should be able to get a lot of stops. So I think Zeuer is going to probably compete, for the division title with that team if he's hitting his JJs. So nothing else really to add. I think it's just pretty standard Zeuer.
All right. So what's going on to your team, War? I'm gonna I'm gonna just announce it real quick, and then I want Eric's opinion on your team, and then you can kind of talk about your draft strategy a little bit. So playing from behind, as you said, being at the end of the draft, Phil Simms is one of the above average QBs. You've got an elite running back in Butts. Everett can be one of your man guys for DBs. Minifield's okay drone. You've got Eric Allen that you can also man in the secondary. Seth Joyner is your primary linebacker. While he's small, he's got 31 receptions. You can use him as a nickel. It doesn't look like... So I know you and I had talked. Who are your receivers? Who did you end up getting at wide receiver?
Well, tell he's got Novacek in there. So I mean,
oh, that's why he
with
took.
the offensive
Yeah,
line.
he took the Dallas offensive line to grab Novacek because he had nobody else. Because I mean, aside from Novacek, it's just Barnett. I mean, I think he's what 38.50 or 38.56, 31.56. So
38.56.
So Novacek is probably gonna be your primary target. Plus, he helps with butts. So and then obviously you pulled the Vikingmoe and grabbed the New England defensive line. So you got two nickel guys, which, as you can see from my draft, if we ever get to me tonight, I've fallen in love with using the defensive line nickel. So good get there, getting the New England defensive line. So I mean, your team is pretty complete. So Eric, what do you think of his team?
Yeah, well, I mean, the offense I think looks pretty good. I mean, Sims, Butts, and Novacek is pretty good, threesome there. Obviously, with a really good offensive line. I actually really like the Eric Allen pick. I think you got him at a pretty good value, and underrated DB with pretty good speed that can get the job done. Not obviously elite, but very much serviceable. And Joyner, he's not maybe a super reliable lurcher at LB4, but you can put him there and maybe at least hope it deters people from picking that run two dive. But I think it's pretty good. I mean, the defense is a little bit lighter, obviously, but the offense is going to be tough to stop.
Yeah, I think going into this draft, so this past season, the current season ongoing now, my defense pretty much sucks, and I'm just trying to see like how far I can go with the no defense thing, because I thought maybe this year, because the format, maybe 14-2 record is probably a product of that. Having so much, either full offense or full defense for most teams. So I kind of wanted to see how it would play out, like in this draft, like going again with the lighter defense. I mean, I did get some values, like you said, with Eric Allen, and then I do have some nickel guys at linebacker and on the D line.
Yeah, Everett too. I missed that. Sorry about that. Everett's a pretty good player.
Yeah. So I think it should be a solid team, and I think I should be fine. I think I'd like to have a little bit more speed at quarterback. I like having the scramble ability. Boomer was an option for me in round one, but I thought Diaz might take Butts, with those two picks. So I thought, Butts and Sims versus Esiason and Mel Gray was pretty much the options I had. So I was happy with it. The only thing is maybe receiver was something I would have liked to have, maybe some better quality. But I'm in the mindset I like to have just one receiver really on offense, and I think Novacek, I can put him at wide receiver 1, and then be fine. I do a lot of 38 MS guys, so if I can get one of those guys to get into good, I might be able to kind of move them around, maybe at tight end or something. So it's a pretty decent team for myself. I think I should be fine for the most part. On defense is the only thing where I wish I had some more speed, especially at linebacker. I think Jesus took the last 50 RP linebacker right before I took Seth Joyner, so I was a little bummed about that, just to have for lurching purposes. But that's probably the only pick where I was kind of upset about not getting the guy that I wanted.
Yeah, it looks like Jesus took. It's probably Tim Harris. You're probably talking about
Tim Harris. I think round 5 or 6. It was pretty late.
So, well, okay, sounds good to me. I would say that I kind of wish you had a faster wide receiver. I know you and I talked about Collins. But I think I wasn't sure. I don't remember what you took instead of taking Collins. But, 50-50 and 44-69, whatever. So, moving on to the NFC West, because Drake is pick number 3. So, Drake took my favorite pick in the draft, Brooks and Fulcher. I've had Fulcher, and honestly, I wasn't really happy with my season with him. He wasn't bad a lot, and I don't think I played well with him, which was a shame because I loved having him. But as I kind of already said, he even put in the HSTL Discord channel, he didn't think Young was a reach. I still don't know about Young. I think he might have been a reach. But love Brooks and Fulcher. Great grab at 3. And then the rest of his team, though, is kind of, it's got speed. It's good. I don't see what Prohl gets him because he doesn't really have any high PC guys. And if Young gets hurt, Grogan is a big digression from what he is used to, I think. But he's already been kind of said he's a run first guy. Galt, I will caution him. Young is not a JJ quarterback, and Young is not a throw to coverage quarterback. And obviously Galt doesn't have high reception anyway. So if he thinks he's just going to bomb it to Galt, just be careful. Galt is better, in my opinion, with quick throws where he's just running past somebody. And then looking at the rest of his team, he got the Philly O-line to grab Jackson, maybe for blocking, maybe for throwing, who knows. But, I mean, the Philly O-line, I think he's going to have some problems with people with better defensive lines. And then the Tampa Bay kicker punter, the defensive line is terrible, but at least he has Christie. So halfway through the draft, he was one of my favorite teams. I think it's kind of evened out where he's just kind of there now. But, I mean, I still like his team. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think, we've talked before, too, Hoff, about speed disparity in wide receivers with Galt and Prohl and how it creates a little better spacing. Be interesting to see if he does something with that. I think you got to use Galt with more of the burn routes and things if you're going to really try to, get the most out of that. I think that the Keith Jackson pick with the O-line is a luxury that kind of costs him in other places. But Jerome Brown, I think, as a linebacker, that's always nice to have along with Fulcher. So, I mean, the defense is going to be, on point, I think. But, one Steve Young injury away from a disaster here. But I think how well can you use Steve Young to really, get the most out of these receivers and the weapons that he has.
I thought this team was one of the best ones that I saw. As the draft was progressing, he just has talent everywhere. He has the offense, he has defense. I think Steve Young is going to be the key to how his season goes. You have to kind of use him in a certain way. So I think if Drake can sort of maneuver him properly, I think he should be in the playoff hunt. Just having Fulcher and then having the 50 RP linebacker, Jerome Brown, the speed at receiver, Brooks, he pretty much has it all.
It's true.
All right, going right next pick in the draft with a player. His big pick was Barry Sanders and William White, which I thought was correctly picked before Bo Jackson because of the value of William White. And then he doubled down on Detroit and got Rodney Peete as well as his primary quarterback. Looking down the list here, it looks like White is pretty much his manable DB. And then for wide receiver, he's got Duper and Offerdell, which will probably make Vikingmoe drool because he loves a good Offerdell. So he doubled down and took Merriweather as well, which, I get it. Merriweather, I think he's almost tiny bit slower than Offerdell, but he's got the 44 interception instead of 31. I'm not sure if there's a better value there instead, but regardless, it allows him to put Offerdell at 4, I guess, and then Merriweather at 1, maybe. They're not big enough to really crash through the line, so it really doesn't matter which one you use as a nickel. And then he's got the San Diego LL, which I think they've got a 44 return guy, I think. And then the Indy defensive line is, a moot point. So I don't know about – I'm all for the nickel guy, but I'm not going to go look, but I'm curious if you guys remember if there was any better value on the board than taking Merriweather when he did.
I thought Merriweather dropped in the draft, if I remember correctly. I remember him just slipping, so he might have gotten him pretty late, maybe.
I'm actually looking.
Maybe the 4th round, early 5th or something.
He got him early 5th. You were right.
So I'm not sure what else was there. I don't recall, if there was maybe something better there, maybe a DB or something. I think having William White as your main DB might be tough.
Dennis Byrd went right after Merriweather, and if I had the choice after already having Offerdell of having Byrd and Merriweather, I would take Byrd, but that's just me.
No, I agree with that for sure.
But regardless, we're going to get to the AFC West soon enough and talk about all that. But I just don't think you need 2 nickel guys. I thought Byrd would have been more impactful. But regardless, I don't think I wish he had a faster receiver, which he could have also gotten. If I think looking Grady went right after his Merriweather pick as well. So there were still fast. Pepper Johnson went after his Merriweather pick. Millard went after his Merriweather pick. Leslie O'Neal went after his Merriweather pick. Kofor went after his Merriweather pick. So there were guys to pick. So I don't know. Well, regardless, what do you guys think of his team?
I like it. It's basically the Detroit offense in a lot of ways, offensively. Like you mentioned, White as the only DB is a little problematic, but I'm assuming offered all BLB4, and then you got another nickel back, I guess, with Merriweather, so it'll be okay, I think. I mean, you got Barry, and the San Diego O-line is good, so I think it's Barry or bust, and if he's good with Rodney Peete, it can be tough to stop.
Yeah, so I was talking to a player a little bit on direct message, and he was considering John Elway there or Rodney Peete. So what do you guys think about that? Would you, for this type of team, would you have preferred maybe the higher passing speed like with Elway, or do you think you made the right call with Peete?
I guess I like Rodney Peete better than Elway in most scenarios. I mean, Elway is just he takes some plays out of use, really, especially hot routes. I think because of the it can be jump intercepted a little bit easier, obviously, and then it takes away any kind of JJ opportunity, time JJs or otherwise. So, yeah. I guess I personally favor Peete.
Yeah, I personally favor Peete as well, but that's just my 2 cents. So we're going on to Prime. So we kind of talked about Prime already. I don't think we have to beat up on him anymore about his first couple picks. But it's
sure?
No, we don't have to. It's a normal Prime team. He's got Ken. He reignited his bromance with Ken O'Brien. He's got Johnny Johnson as his primary running back. He has McDonald as his primary defender. I think Seal is actually pretty good too. He can man Seal. Harper, when Harper goes into good, he could actually be manned as well. He's got Fryer as his primary wide receiver. Oh no, he's got Ricky Sanders as his primary wide receiver, and he's got Fryer, and he also has Collins from Atlanta, Sean Collins. The big problem with Prime's team, looking at it, and he knows this, is he has no manable linebacker. He missed out because he couldn't draft that spot. So, I mean, Prime, unless he gets, real good with his DBs, or might have trouble stopping the run, to be honest. And he'll have no nickel opportunities. And then, obviously, we kind of talked about his potential reach on the Giants' offensive line, but he did go on record and say he took the Giants' offensive line because of Bavaro for blocking. So he seems to value Bavaro to block for Johnson. So regardless, anyway, I don't really think there's anything to say about this team else than it's a normal Prime team. Do you guys have anything you want to add before we move on?
I'll bite my tongue, I guess.
No, I think Prime's gonna be fine. He'll be 10-6, 11-5 as usual. He's such a great player that doesn't matter if he has, great players or average players. I mean, he's going to be competing for that division. So, it's a solid team for him.
His offense is tailor-made for him. I think his defense could be troubling a little bit. He might have trouble getting stops with no linebackers, but we'll see. Moving on to Nas, which is pretty much the cream of the division, cream of the crop for a while here. Huge value, late round pick on Andre Ware. So, I mean, Nas with a mobile QB, watch out. Good luck, NFC West, stopping that. He's got Reggie Cobb for blocking. What Anderson is that? Does he have at running back 1? I don't even know.
That's Otis, I think.
Otis.
Oh, yeah, Otis Anderson. So Otis Anderson is probably running back. A lot of hitting power in this team. And then he got the Ellard Green tandem. I mean, he got a lot of value in his picks just when he took them, based on when he took them. So he has his manable linebacker. The rest of his linebackers are crap. And the rest of his wide receivers, I mean, Eddie Brown, notwithstanding, I guess, is a decent, secondary guy. But the rest of his receivers are kind of crap. He's got the KC offensive line, though, which Dolo will tell you makes a difference having a line that big. Although Jonathan Hayes and Roberts don't do anything for you. And he's got the Seattle defensive line, which, gives him Jacob Green not to run a nickel, but I think just gives him someone else he can man for whatever reason if he needs to. I think Nas will do really well with this team. I think he'll win the division. I'm going to go on record. I know we're not doing predictions, but I think he's going to win the division with this team because this team is probably better than most teams he usually has. But do you guys have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I like the defense, Carl Lee and Kevin Green, and it's a little light after that, mostly drones, which is fine. I guess Jacob Green's worth mentioning on the D line as well. But the offense, it looks good. I'll say this: as great as a value that Andre Ware was, he's probably not the most ideal pairing with Henry Ellard. Just because that 38 pass control is a little easier to jump intercept with certain DBs than a 44 guy would be. Yeah, I mean, he can stretch the field with Ellard and scramble with Ware, but it might have to be a little more grindy at times because it's maybe not ideal. I know he has Chris Miller to kind of play conditions with, which is good, and kind of play as their guy, and maybe needs to put Miller in for the longer JJ attempts, but I think he's just got to be wary of that, no pun intended. Otherwise, it looks really good.
Oh my God, we are such nerds.
I had to throw at least one pun.
Well, War, you said you got to go after this division. So, do you have anything you want to say on Nas before you probably play him in the championship game? Well, I mean, not that I'm trying to throw Jesus under the bus. It's just not. I mean, but Nas was just he's been lights out. He's been on.
He's a machine. I mean, he's just insane with how he plays. It doesn't matter what team he has. I think I forgot who his quarterback is this year. I think it's someone who's really terrible, if I remember correctly. And he's like 14-2 with that team. So I'm curious to see how he's going to handle Andre Ware because, I mean, one of Nas's great strengths is his passing, his quick passing and his quick hitters. So I'm curious to see how he's going to do with Ware and only Henry Ellard. He's not really much of a JJer, so I'm kind of interested to see how he's going to handle that on offense. But he has everything he needs. He has his LB4, he has his 2. He pretty much has his core defenders. And on offense, he's going to score points no matter what. So, I mean, Nas is probably going to win the division easily.
Well, do you definitely have to go, or do you want to stick around?
I got to go. My wife is waiting for me to watch some TV. So,
all right. Well, thanks for proving to everybody you're a real person. And as always, thanks for all the help in the draft. And appreciate you coming on. Come back anytime.
Yeah, no problem. Great work with the pod, and great to talk with you, Vikingmoe.
Yeah, nice to meet you, buddy. Take care.
Yeah, catch you soon. Bye.
All right, Eric. Let's plug along here and just kind of figure if we can finish this up in the next hour and just make this a 2-hour pod per usual. Unless you have to go soon too, or do you want to cut it in half and do a half at a different time?
Let's just go ahead and knock it out.
All right, yeah, because I don't have time the rest of the weekend anyway. So. Okay, anyway, moving on. So now we're going to the NFC West, starting with Game High. He had the questionable Warren Moon over Joe Montana pick. I think he took Moon because he's recently had Joe Montana, I believe. So, I'm a Moon lover. I'm okay with it. I mean, but once again, if you want Moon, drop back a few picks. For, running backs, he's got the two-headed monster of Ruben Mays and Harry Sidney, so he's got 244 MS guys, which is really all you need with Moon. His best manable DB, it looks like, is Massey, who's a little slow. Now, don't worry, we're going to get to it, buddy. He's got the Houston defensive line and kicker and punter or whatever. So now, here's my problem. Here's what I don't understand. He went all in on linebacker, which is fine. I get it. I know you love linebackers. But he kind of tried to recreate a crappy version of the Giants linebackers. And what I don't get is because of it, he missed out on better guys elsewhere. Specifically, he's going to have a lot of problems with the Tampa Bay offensive line. I mean, it's just going to be a mess. Everyone who has him bitches about it. They never want him again. But, I mean, he already had Ingram and Banks and Reed and Conlon, which is fine. All you really need with Moon, Andre Reed, Mark Ingram, perfect compliments, both fast. Reed's got the high reception, fine. But then he tripled down on linebacker after having Carl Banks and Shane Conlon, who Conlon can be your LB1, put Banks at LB4, and Colin can block a kick. He got Bird, which, I mean, I'm kind of bitter because I wanted Bird. Who knows if he would have fallen to me, but I really wanted Bird. But regardless, though, he got Bird, and I don't know why. I don't know why he got Bird. But then, to make matters worse, his next pick was Pat Swilling, I think. Or one of his picks later was Pat Swilling. What do you do with all these linebackers? I mean, is Banks is what? Is Banks 19 interceptions? So Banks is 19 interception. Yeah. Colin is 19 interception. Bird's 25, so you can use him as a nickel if you want to, which I'm guessing he's probably going to be using Bird a lot, honestly. And Swilling's 19 interception. What do you get by having 4 linebackers? I mean, Colin, you can kind of man a little bit. I think he's, 31, 40, 450. You can kind of man. I know Colin's maybe kind of big, 56 or 63 HP, but it's just, I don't get it. What do you need 3 big guys for? Like Swilling 69 HP, Bird 69 HP, Banks I think is 63. Yeah. I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand. And then it led to the Tampa Bay offensive line. He took Bird instead of getting a DB that he needed, a manable DB, and he took Bird instead of, an offensive line. Either one would have made his team better instead of Bird. So that's just my 2 cents on Game High's team. And honestly, Game High's been playing well lately. He's had a couple of seasons in the, he's definitely in the hunt in the beginning, ends up 500 or so. So, I mean, crap, man. I don't get it. What do you think?
Well, I as much as I like linebackers, I don't know if I want this team, but I think first of all, Ingram and Reed that came with the linebackers made a lot of sense to go with Moon. You probably don't need both, but it's still, that's great. So that looks good for the offense. But I think there is an advantage of having a good LB3 when you pick their play. That's the guy that gets in the most. So having someone fast in that spot can be helpful. But I think in this scenario, Bird has to be LB4. And I'm assuming probably Swilling at the top, and then Banks maybe is the LB3 and he has a career season. I don't know, but what he wants to do. But I have to agree with you. Anything that prevents him from getting that Tampa Bay O-line is an upgrade instantly. So
I actually disagree with you. I would put Banks at LB4. I'd put Swilling at LB1, and I'd put Bird at LB3.
Well, that's not bad either, because then you can still take Bird in obvious passing situations to fall back. So
but you know what, though? I'm going to go on record and say you don't need a fast LB3 because
you don't.
Hardy Nickerson, for me, tied for the league lead in sacks. Simply, I didn't man Nickerson all season, just on pick plays. Literally tied for the league lead in sacks at 10. With like man guys, whatever. I mean, so just for what it's worth. So I don't get Game High strategy. Believe it or not, aside from the Tampa Bay offensive line, his team isn't bad. I mean, I like it. Although I wish he had I just wish he had a manable DB. And I wish he didn't have the Tampa Bay offensive line. I think whatever goodwill you had with Moon throwing to Reed and Ingram, you're gonna lose with that. So I wonder if I play in this season. I have to go look at the schedule because that would be fun. The Tampa Bay offensive line versus my front 5. So, anywho, moving on. We're going to Rob. It's in Seattle. He chose Marino. This was the Marino over QB Browns pick. I don't know if he recently had QB Browns, but I mean, I think it's kind of just whatever your flavor is, to be frank. I don't think it really matters as much, although I'll bitch about every QB I've had, honestly, because I've just had bad seasons with all of them because I didn't know what I was doing. He's got Lorenzo White. So the problem here is Lorenzo White is only 44 MS running back. I think McNair is 38. I think I know I'm losing my spot here. Metcalf is 38. You're probably going to use him in as a receiver, honestly. Or at tight end, maybe. I thought Hampton and Walsh was a good pick. Manable DB. Hampton is kind of like a Swiss Army knife guy, like Alonzo Highsmith, except not as good. Whit Lips can probably be his secondary wide receiver. He's got Flipper, which is – does he have Flipper? Am I looking at the right line? Yeah, he's got flipper, which works with Marino, but once again, it's more on burn routes. It's not about deep balls, and I think Anderson is more of a deep ball guy, but we'll see. I think he's going to get a whole bunch of CCs to flipper, to be honest. And then he's got Grady for speed. So I mean, I think he did well here, to be honest, to complement himself for Marino's skill set here. I think there's probably less drops to Grady because of Marino. And then, but unfortunately, he has the Rams defensive line, which I had 2 seasons in a row, terrible. And then the crappy kicker of Lansford, who is the worst, tied for being the worst kicker in the game with Del Greco. So, I mean, is this team built for Marino, and can he get stops on defense? What do you think, Eric?
I think so. I think you got a good offensive line, which is important for Marino, and I'd like a little more at the running back, but they're also good receivers. So I mean, you could get CCs really anywhere. So it's definitely Marino heavy on offense. I'd like a little more balance, but I think it would work. He's got plenty of speed too at receiver. So I mean, I like it. Like you mentioned, the kicking game. Hopefully, you're kicking extra points. But yeah, I guess Walls is just enough. And I think it could work. I'm trying to think now. Does he have a linebacker?
He has.
He does not.
Oh yeah, he doesn't have a linebacker either. I mean, Odom's too slow. So yeah, I'd probably say if he could have gotten a linebacker instead, he should have. But yeah. I just think having Flipper and Grady is overkill because I'm in the same boat as you, where I like difference in speed instead of 2 fast guys. I understand the point having 2 fast guys, but if you have plays where both guys are burning, you're not going to have. It's going to be a lot easier for one person to cover both. I said maybe not as much with Marino because of his passing speed. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. He might be tougher to get stops on defense with the no linebackers. But moving on to Tadeos. So Tadeos went. He went the Frank Reich, Timmy Rosenbach route. So I think he's going to use Timmy as his primary guy. You got the Craig Waymer pick, so he's got his 50 MS running back. So aside from Daniel from the Colts, he has a very strong secondary with 2 guys with 56 interceptions and then Waymer. So it might be tough to pass on him, depending. And then he's got Charles Haley with John Taylor. And that's kind of his only – it looks like that's his only – what Johnson is that? Robinson and Johnson. I don't know what Johnson that is. But it looks like Haley's his only linebacker. And then he's got the Washington offensive line, which is big. And then also bonus is he's got his since he doesn't have a 100 HP guy, he can use the tight ends, either the tight end, I believe, from the offensive line as his kick returner because they've got 81 ball control. So, and then he decided to do what Randy Wags did and what I did too. Randy Wags did in season 45, and he went big on his front 5. So we get the Raiders defensive line. He's got Haley. That's got to be a big Johnson. I'm going to look it up while you talk about his team, though. But what do you think about this team?
Yeah, it looks really good to me. I wonder if that's Mike Johnson. No, it's not Mike Johnson.
No, maybe it is Mike Johnson. I think it is.
Well, it says LB2. Mike Johnson's LB3. So.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm actually. So for those watching the stream, I'm sorry. I'm on the picks page. I'm looking this up because I have no idea who it is. So keep going.
Yeah, he gets tremendous value from both of the San Francisco, tandems with the Craig Waymer, and then the Taylor Haley, and that allows him that luxury of then drafting defensive line a little earlier and getting the Raiders there. So I like that. And his defense looks really, really good. Where he paid for a little bit was at the quarterback spot, but then you use play conditions with Tim and Frank, and they're both 31, 44 guys. Tim has a little bit the max speed of 19, so you probably start him and then just play conditions from there. Throw some bombs at John Taylor, whatever. And you have Craig too to run the ball. So I think it's a really good team. I like it. A little lighter on offense, of course. The defense looks really good.
Yeah, actually, that's Pepper Johnson. So he went full big.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
And now Pepper Johnson also can be his nickelback, which he really, for Christ's sake, doesn't need. But he's got one. So, but I don't think he plans on manning either one of them because he wanted a full line of stuff. So I think, what does that mean? He's got 4 out of his 5 guys on the line are 69 HP with 163 HP guy, which I think is Howie Long or Townsend. One of the two of them is
Townsend 63.
Yeah, and then Long and Golick are 69, and then he's got Pepper Johnson at 69 and Haley at 69. Jesus, my God, I hope I don't play him.
That's awesome.
Yep. So moving on to we're on to Denver. Randy Wags, who just lost in the stream tonight to Tekmobo in a very closely contested game. So Randy Wags went to the 44-44 route. I was playing QB chicken with him since we both had crappy QBs in season 45, but he didn't bite. And pardon me, Randy took the last 44-44 guy, and Tony Eason. He's got Bobby Humphrey for his running back, so he's got an elite running back. We've already I talked about in the stream tonight that he can tap to holy hell. Randy's very good at just running all over people. He's got Tony Page for blocking, and obviously the 44 reception helps. Fennerty can be used in a kind of Swiss Army knife role. He's only got 25 reception, but he's got 44 MS. Sekihime actually isn't terrible either at 38. And then for receivers, it's pretty much Page. So my guess is Fennerty could be a wide receiver at one of the wide receiver spots. That's my guess. Fennerty or Sekihime. Probably Fennerty because of his color of his skin. And then Sekihime maybe at the second running back spot is probably my guess at how he'd run this. He's got. Oh no, he wouldn't do that because he's got the Raiders' offensive line. So he'll put Ethan Horton in at probably one of the wide receiver spots, and then he's going to put Page in a tight end. So Fennerty, So Fennerty could just be either he's not going to care about the race, or he's just going to. Well, it doesn't matter. We don't need to speculate anymore. But anyway,
this team's really good. I think. I mean, obviously Bobby Humphrey, and then you have Stephon Page. I mean, so 2 pretty good players there.
Oh yeah, and your guy Percy Snow. Percy Snow, I think, is one of your favorite linebackers in the game.
Yeah, so right. And he has Darryl Talley. So I mean,
and he has Bob Nelson on the defensive line.
Right. I'm like, this is a great team. And then Raiders have a 44 max speed kick returner too. So he's got pretty much everything, except maybe you don't really need a great second receiver. I mean, Ethan Horton will be fine. And then he's got really a deep bench with Sekihime or Fennerty to be RB2 with Page at tight end. I mean, it looks really good. I mean, Tony Eason and Bobby Brister is where he kind of, was able to, like you were doing, kind of waiting on the quarterback and getting more value. But 44 is just fine. And, I think this is a really good team.
Yeah, just going back, because I'm seeing Game High actually say it in the chat, the stream chat, having the Raiders DL, or just basically Tadeos as front 5 against Game High, is just going to be a massacre. That's just going to be a complete and utter massacre. But
that'd be fantastic.
I think Randy's team actually might be one of my favorites, to be honest.
It's really good.
It checks all the boxes for sure. So the last team of the AFC West, and obviously not the least, it's Gats. So if anyone knows how to use Dave Craig, it's Gats. I didn't like Dave Craig. One real note, actually going back to Randy's team, when I had Bob Nelson and I didn't man him, he was such a super drone. He caught everybody. So just for what it's worth, people don't credit how fast he is enough. Anyway, so if anyone knows how to use Dave Craig, it's Gats. Looks like, he's probably going to go Cleveland Gary, which was good value when he got him, if I remember correctly, even though he's low BC. If anyone can deal with low BC, it's Gats. Although Getz did fumble twice against me in the playoffs, but he's pretty good about getting out of bounds. I would say, if he has problems with Gary, he can use Bryant. Getz we kind of talked about already. Good luck, everybody, with Getz having a stud DB for the first time in multiple seasons. That's going to be really interesting. It looks like his wide receivers are Mark Jackson, which is slow, and then Richard Johnson, the other Dick, which is really slow. So that could be really interesting with Craig. I'm not sure. I just feel like if I remember what Brewdog has told me before, you really need faster guys for Craig to make it worthwhile. Mike Pagel is his backup, maybe for the goal line area. And it looks like his primary linebacker is going to be was it Tim Francis from Cincinnati? I think that's his name. You can correct me if it's not. And then his offensive line is Cincinnati, which that means he also has Rodney Holman. So he's got weapons for Craig to throw to. His offensive line is Detroit. He chose Detroit, much to the surprise of some people. I think someone was on the chat asking why Detroit was already gone. But I think he just did it because of Jerry Ball, because he wants the ability to break through the line. So I think that this is not a team I'd like playing with, per se, but I think Gatz can win with anything. So I think he can make this work. I think he's going to be bombing it a lot, to be honest with you. But he definitely has enough in the run game here to keep people honest. So what do you think?
Yeah, I have a few problems. Because, first is James Francis. And then the second problem I have is that I thought he took David Craig a little, he was early, but I guess that's what he wanted to do. So whatever, it's Gatz, he can do whatever he wants. And I kind of disagree. I think you can get away with slower guys like Jackson with the slower passing speed because he can still get to the end zone because of the more he's throwing rainbows. So I think you can get away with it. He'll do plenty of work with Cleveland Gary and be just fine. He'll have plenty of balance. So I don't like the Detroit D-line pick. Sometimes when you're in close games, you actually need to kick a field goal. I don't doubt Gat's skill with that, but it helps to not have a really, really bad kicker. So there's also the tight end from Cincinnati, so it gives him another target. But it's okay. It's not. I don't look at this and say, "Oh, it's a good team." I kind of like it, but then it's Gat, so I don't think he'll have any problem. So
yeah, it's not a team for me, but as I said, I think Gats can make it work. I can't wait till he throws rainbows to Richard Johnson, and I can't wait to see how long. I can't wait to see how long he has to wait to throw them. So I want to see like a whole field bomb to Richard Johnson and see how long he has to wait to throw that ball. Because if you guys don't remember, Gatz is so good at maneuvering the quarterback in the backfield that he can pretty much get away from anybody for the most part. So, all right. So the next one down is the Central, which we already did, AFC Central. So now we're on to the NFC West or NFC East. First team is Turbo. So this team is really surprising to me, and here's why. Turbo has spent weeks learning the Arnco method of tapping. He uses the claw method. He actually showed me at Madison, and I have my own modified version that I can't do. But he spent like 2 weeks perfecting it, and it's completely changed his ability. Because as we all know, if you can tap, you can go iso grapple heavy, and then you can win grapples, and it's just a lot easier to beat people when you can tap. Which is one of the reasons, if you haven't noticed, why Gatz doesn't tap online, is I think he's just trying to get better and beat people because he doesn't tap better than some of the best players live, so he wants to just get better at winning without being able to tap. I think that's why. I think that's what he said to me. Regardless, so Turbo has a pass-heavy team. He just has a passing team here. He's got the Joe Montana. He's got Hayward for blocking, which might be superfluous because I don't think he needs them. But he does have the 44 MS kick returner, so that helps. He's got Lonnie Young for his primary defensive back, which is great. He's got Buford McGee, which he actually self-admittedly said was a reach, and he wished he picked something else. He shouldn't have gone for McGee because he has the same issue that many people have, is that he has no manable linebacker. And so that's what he's upset about, is that he doesn't have any man-able linebackers that are worth a damn. But Joe is going to be throwing to Toon and Anthony Carter. So, I mean, I think that's Anthony Carter. Yeah, that's Anthony Carter. So, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see Turbo in a pass-heavy offense. I don't remember if I've ever seen it. So it's going to be fun to watch, I think. And he rounds out with New Orleans Saints offensive line, which we talked about, which gives him the 44-man kick returner, and then the Miami kicker defensive line, which is fine, and has one of the best kickers in the game, and Stojanovic. So it's just the only thing I have on this team is that I wish he had a linebacker, and it's going to be really interesting to watch him not run all the time. Oh, he also has Gaston Green. So my guess is McGee. I don't know where he's going to put. McGee is probably going to be running back 2. Maybe we're on a two running back offense with Hayward at tight end, I guess, right?
Right. This actually looks a lot like a team, at least on offense, that I had when I had Montana and Carter. So the super cooling with Joe Cool to AC. And then I
that's funny.
And then I actually had both the Rams running backs too, McGee and Green. So and then you can do 2 running back offenses and everything, and keep people guessing. So the offense looks fantastic to me, and the good offensive line looks good. But the defense is just Lonnie Young. It's all it is. So that's going to be the thing. It's going to be some shootouts, I think, and trying to get some stops with Lonnie Young, and we'll see how that goes.
Just catching up on the chat right now on the stream, Gats has said that he had DeBerg before, or he had Craig before and didn't bomb. Go check the stats. His team is Super Bowl ready. So, just for what it's worth. Yeah. Okay. Anywho, and Hawk is upset because Big Cock wanted to. It's a funny joke, by the way, if you don't get it. Big Cock wanted to. He wanted to have Rice Craig, which I'm thankful that he does not. Who does Hawk have? Oh, Wade Wilson. Yeah, screw that. Okay, moving on to where are we? Washington, Barletti. So Barletti's whole draft, he didn't have access to post, he said, so he put them all on Discord. We already detailed his huge reach with Troy Aikman, which I don't get whatsoever. You don't get. Anytime the LVP is taken, we're going to make fun of it. So regardless. He's got a Koi, so that's nice. Atwater could hurt in his division, depending on, because, I mean, Atwater is going to get eaten alive by Joe Montana. Who else is in this division? That's really the only guy, it looks like, that could make him pay, but pardon me. Anyway, so he's got, I lost my spot here. Aikman, Okoye, so Atwater's going to hurt. Is that, what Wolford is that? So that's probably the green from the Bears. So Wolford's okay. Odoms, I've actually had Odoms as a primary defender one season, and he's not terrible. He just has stone hands. Hassan Jones, which I don't know what that's going to really get him, but he's got Anthony Miller at the other side. And then, pardon me, I don't know what Taylor that is on LB1. I don't know. Does he not have a linebacker and a man?
So LB1 is LT. That was his huge reach, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. So he has LT, which is, that's great. So he's going to pretty much have to use LT at all times to make that worthwhile. And then to round it out, the Green Bay offensive line and the Pittsburgh defensive line, which is both fine. So his secondary has some stone hands. I think his best one is Wolford. Is Wolford 56 interception, or I don't even know.
I think he's right around there. He's pretty decent.
And then, but that's it. I mean, Odoms is 38. Atwater is, 25 or 31. I don't know what Porter is. And then
it's the LT show, and I mean, obviously, I like Okoye's fine, but then inevitably there's going to be times where Aikman has to pass, and everyone knows he has to pass, and your best receiver is Anthony Miller, and that's just not very scary. So I don't know. I just don't like it that much. I think you can see where he paid for getting LT that early and not getting some value somewhere because the rest of the team suffered for it. There's holes in a lot of spots.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I mean, when you're that high in the draft, I just think, and you're not taking one of the best, like top guys like Barry, Bo, or the top QBs, you just have to take a tandem that brings you value. But anyway, moving on to the Mac in Phoenix. So he had the reach of Thurman Thomas. So he has Thurman Thomas. He took Scott Mitchell, which was fine. He's got Rathman.
It was a reach, though, at the time.
Yes, it was a reach. He took with how late the 44 guys were going, it was a reach. Rathman at, for his blocking at probably tight end. Lots good. That's really all he has there for his DBs. Reynolds, I think, is 56 interception, but he's slow. I don't know about Ross.
Ross is 56 also, but not optimal speed.
So he's susceptible to burn routes. And then Smith, I think Smith might be 50. So he's got a good interception secondary. And then he's got Michael Irvin, Tim McGee, and that's it. So Mike Irvin and McGee are his wide receivers. I guess he could use Gerald McNeil. Is Gerald McNeil part of the Houston package for tight ends? Yeah. And then he's got Millard. So it's kind of the Millard show, I guess. And then and then he's got the KC. He's got the KC defensive line, which is the best kicker in the game. Some people actually say they don't like having Lowry because his arrow moves too slow. But regardless, I don't know. I can't take someone who passes on QB Eagles one season and then the next season with the juiciest tandems there are in the game. So juicy that we've had in a while. He drops from 2 to 14, 13, wherever he went. I mean, I get it if you want to drop, if you don't want to take one of those QBs, but don't drop that far. I mean, how good would Brooks and Fulcher look on this team? Instead of Thomas and Smith. He could have the same team, pretty much, except he'd have Brooks and Fulcher. I mean, come on. Instantly it makes it a better team. Fulcher and Lott, potentially. Just, I don't know. So, anyway. I don't want to beat him up anymore. Do you have anything you want to add?
It's just a little lacking on offense. You stop Thurman Thomas, and then you have Scott Mitchell throwing to nobody scary. So I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Yep. So now we're on to Dolo. Dolo, it actually has what I used to call a Dolo team, which he didn't. I remember when I first took over HSTL, I was auto picking for Dolo, and he got pissed at me for picking a guy that was too good. It was almost like he was like in prime mode where he just always wanted like a 50-50 wide receiver, wanted a 44 PCQB, a 50 MS running back. So obviously it's changed a little bit. He could have some issues this season throwing the ball. He's got two 44-38 guys. So, he's going to be susceptible to the JJ pick. He's got Gary Anderson as his primary running back, which will be fine for him. Woods will be his, the blocker at tight end, I would assume. He does have Holahan for the Rams offensive line, so I don't know where unless he doesn't put Woods there and puts Holahan somewhere. Holahan's slow, though. He's got Dexter Carter as well at running back for option, made to play conditions with. But, I mean, his draft to me is defined by his reach on Rod Woodson. I just don't know how. I mean, Bell, especially now with the depth of Carter, Bell doesn't do anything for me here. So it's just to have Woodson instead of Haddix, I still don't get. Just kind of moving on, he's got Simon Fletcher as his primary linebacker. I think Harvey from the Cardinals will help a little bit. He's a little underrated. And then to round it out, scrolling over, the New Orleans Saints defensive line, which is fine. So, I mean, to me, this draft is more over what the hell is he thinking with Woodson? Because, I mean, Haddix just makes his team better. I mean, that's all I can – when I'm looking at his team, that's all I can see. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, trying to look past that, I think, Woodson is a different flavor with the hitting power too. So, but I mean, I like his defense. Woodson and two pretty good linebackers. There's nothing wrong with that. And then on offense, it's a little more mediocre, but he's got options to play lots of conditions with, and everything. So it's not bad. Just kind of looking at his wide receivers again, Vance Johnson, it's kind of what you got. So I don't know, maybe move Gary Anderson to wide receiver sometimes too, but so a little light on offense, but I think the defense is actually really good. I know that I think you would prefer Haddix, but I think he's pretty good with Woodson too. So I think it's all right, but I'd probably like a little more on offense.
Yeah, I would say moving Anderson to wide receiver actually might be necessary to be looking at this a little bit, but maybe not because Johnson. I mean, you don't really need to, so who knows? He might have trouble.
Yeah.
Oops, my webpage the dock just crashed on my. For those watching at home, Google just crashed on me. Okay, it's back up. All right, moving on to Jesus. Is Jesus the last one in the division? Is that our last? It is. All right, so we're on to Jesus. Jesus did. I think Jesus' first pick was Emmitt Smith, which is fine. Getting a 56 MS back in late first round I'm fine with that. What I don't understand though is why take Smith? I'm gonna go back and look.
His first pick, I think, was Richard Johnson.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
The DB.
He took.
And then he got that in a swing.
Yeah, he took Smith in the swing. I was gonna say why take Smith instead of Butts. I'm trying to look now. Yeah, he took Smith in the swing. I'm looking at it right now. So Richard Johnson, good get that late in the round. Smith, good get. Last above average running back left. I think that 4K will be fine for him. Mueller will be his blocker. It doesn't look like he has much. Oh, that's not Carl Lee. That's a different Lee. That's the Green Bay Lee. I don't really think he has much in the secondary though, besides Johnson. So that might be tough. Primary receivers: Gary Clark, great. He's got this JJ guy. Slaughter, probably unnecessary with Clark, but whatever. And then he's got Harris for his good linebacker, and Query actually could be could also play conditions with Slaughter. But then underrated too, Buffalo offensive line, which is good. Also comes with McKellar, which he can run at wide receiver probably. My guess. I don't know where he's going to play all these guys. And Metzelaars is actually even usable as well. And the Dallas defensive line is really, doesn't really matter. So I think it's a balanced team. I think Jesus can win with this team. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Got a good linebacker and then a good DB on defense, and the offense. You get Jeff George, so you got to be careful with 4K. There's not great options to play there, but otherwise, I know just in talking with him, I kind of was PMing him a little bit, and he really wanted to get a little bit better running back this year. So he's got Emmett for that, and I think he'll do well with that. He's a good tapper. I think one of the more balanced teams that we've seen in this draft. For whatever reason, there's not many balanced ones, but this one's really balanced.
Yeah. All right, so we're on our last division. How are we doing on time? Still 8 viewers. Wow, we're an hour and 50 in, and we started talking about other stuff. So I think we're going to do our thing and actually get done here in about 2 hours, which is what we wanted to do. Okay. So, on to the AFC East. Starting with Hugh Mill and Nation. QB Bills, good get, first round, fine with it. I don't like his wide receiver choices. I don't get, if you're going to get an 81 PC QB, how do you not do your best to somehow, even if it's your slower off set guy, how do you not get a better, a higher reception wide receiver? I mean, Baker's great. I think he wanted reasons. I think that's why he took Baker. Is that Tim Brown, I think? Which is, so he's fast, but still stone hands. And then I don't know who Morgan is, but is that supposed to be Barnett instead of Burnett? Well, regardless. Yeah, so I don't know. I like QB Bills. I've never used them. It's one of the few high-end quarterbacks I've never used in a season. But also, correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't have a single 44 MS running back. He's running with Fenny, Hodge, and Mitchell, who, kudos to the ball control, but because I'm not really scared of his offense and getting CC'd on, I don't feel compelled to always call pass against him. So, I just don't think he's going to be able to, I don't know what's going to happen. Plus, he's going to be susceptible to, if he uses regions, to obviously quick throws. But now that I'm looking at it, I think Mitchell comes with Darryl Green, which is probably his primary defender, I would guess. Yeah. So, but that's really it. So it's like on defense, it's kind of, the Detroit offensive line doesn't give him any blockers, and the Minnesota defensive line is fine. So basically, on defense, it's just Darryl Green and reasons, and that's it, right? Am I missing anything here?
Yeah. There's no lurchable linebacker there. I agree. Awesome value. To get QB Bills at pick 8, that's fantastic. And I think it is a questionable strategy at best to have your best receiver then be Baker, who's got good speed. He's good, but he's not. At least a 69 or a 75 right guy would make a lot more sense in that scenario. But playing more the speed thing with Baker and Brown, that's just not how I would have done it. I guess I'll put it that way.
So when he took Hodge and Lake, for example, just to give perspective, Darth Rockman took Keith Byers. Granted, he came with Andre Waters, but took Keith Byers in the 11th round. Literally the 11th round. Just because he came with Waters. What better guy to offset Baker than Keith Byers, when you've got Bills. Yeah. So I think this way, every time it happens, I thought this way with Moon too. If people I get it how they want the quick throws and stuff, but I don't know how you don't pair at least get one high reception guy. To me, if you're drafting a high PC guy, you're required to get a high reception guy to fully take advantage, in my opinion. But
Yep, I agree.
Anywho, moving on here to Rockman. So Rockman went the John Elway route. I thought when he took Elway, it might have been a reach. I don't think you thought so as well. The only thing Byers is going to help with is he's going to help with not having drops from Elway. But other than that, it looks like, it's Bailey and Stinson was a good grab when he got them. I like that. Jeffries and Childress, I was looking at that too. I just decided to get the game-changing speed of Rising instead of getting a 2-for-1, which I'm not sure if I'll regret this season or not. We'll see. But, good value there. He's got BB, who's a 44-44, I think, for the other wide receiver spot. Probably put Byers at tight end, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure what he wants to do, how his team's going to be set up, but he had good value in his picks. He got Mike Johnson, so he's got 2 big guys on the line. The Jets' offensive line, and he's got the San Francisco defensive line. So he pretty much did what Tadeos did and what I did, where he's just trying to go jumbo on the line. So he's got Carter at 69, Holt at 63, I believe, and then a small 50 HP guy for San Francisco. And then you've got Childress and Mike Johnson. So Childress probably at LB4, Mike Johnson at LB1. So who are both, I think Childress is 63 and Johnson 69. So, I think it's gonna work with teams that are. They're definitely gonna work in our division because the offensive lines in our divisions, except for mine and his, are pretty poor. So, I think Rockman, especially with his tapping, can do work with this team. It's just a matter of can he use Elway properly. That's pretty much gonna be the key. And to be honest, I love me Rockman, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever seen him play with Elway, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to or not. Because I remember when he had Marino one season, it was a CF. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think what I thought with this format is that your team is going to be defined by your first three picks, and there's no better example than Rockman. So I mean, with Bailey Stinson, Jeffries Childress, and then of course Elway. I mean, that gives you running back, wide receiver, DB, linebacker, quarterback. It's basically the core of what every team needs, right? And that's what he drafted, and so I kind of like that. The Elway thing can be debated, but the value he got in those two tandems is great, and they're not just average guys either. Those guys have some elite ability, so I really like that, and I think it was great that he was able to do the San Francisco D line with Mike Johnson too. So really, I think he put together a pretty good team, but like you alluded to, it's going to come down to how he does with Elway. We'll find out.
Yeah, if it's me, granted, this is what I'm comfortable with, I just would have gone a 44-44 guy. Like, instead of wasting a pick on Elway that early, what else could he have had instead of Elway? I know he purposely did it, but I mean, hell, even go where? It's just,
right.
I don't know. It's just not for me. But regardless, because I just don't think 50 MS and Jeffries is fast enough to take. Maybe I'm wrong to take advantage of Elway. I'm under the impression that you just need fast guys and you got high PS guys, but who knows? I've seen Gat, play in tournaments and go 100% completion percentage with Tolliver, using the Chargers. So who knows? What do I know? It's true. I'm going to do me last because I can. So we'll go down to Hawk. Hawk is the Wade Wilson show. Whiskey Wade, when he's on, is fine. And it seems like the only person who can warm him up properly is Zeuer. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So Zeuer puckers Wade's tush a little bit, but no one else really does it very well. So he's got Meggett, who I had this season. I love me a Meggett. It looks like Sammy Smith and Williams, the safety there for. So Gutton and Smith, I think, can both be manned if I remember correctly. And then Braxton and Hurst, I'm not really sure. And then he's got Rice, so he's basically going to go Wilson and Rice and bombs. I know he had said in a chat he wanted Rice Craig. Thankfully, he doesn't have it. And then that's really it for receivers. But I mean, if you're throwing anyone besides Rice, you shouldn't be. He's got the Atlanta offensive line, so no blocking there, and the Cincinnati defensive line, which doesn't really matter. So it's basically Meggett helps, I guess. But I mean, did you ever have Rice in a season, Eric?
I did once, yeah.
So I guess the question is, when I had, I don't know. I mean, do you need a 56 MS running back when you've got Rice?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're trying to do, right? I mean, it gives you the option to be balanced. So I don't know. I mean, it's not bad to have, but obviously he sacrificed some defense in doing so. And so, or maybe even taking well, at least he could have gotten a 63 pass control quarterback instead of a Rice, but I don't know. I mean, no,
I think the 63 guys were gone, but by the time by the time it swung back, so I don't think he could have gotten that, but he could have gotten, I don't know, but I mean, he does have Kofor too. I overlooked that, so I mean, he got Kofor for his lurchable guy, plus he can use him as a nickel. So I mean, I like Hawks.
Terrible.
No, I like Hawks' team. We'll probably split like we always do, play real close, or blow each other out like we always do, and that's just usually what happens. He and I usually split. We usually play pretty close or just blow each other out. So, on to Old Dirty Tecmo. So Old Dirty went jumbo. He picked up Boomer because he wanted Boomer, and then he's got Riggs and Mack. I assume Mack at tight end, Riggs at running back 2. He's got Mel Gray for his primary running back, so that should be interesting. And then he's got Hendricks as his primary man defender guy, which I've used Hendricks. It's fine, but he's got stone hands. He can't intercept the ball, so don't expect a lot of turnovers. And then on defense, for linebackers, he's got Romanowski, I think, is his primary guy. Spielman can kind of go up there too, so maybe Romanowski at 4 and Spielman at 1. I would guess. And then it's Robert Clark, not Gary Clark, Robert Clark, and that's pretty much it. Maybe 44, 50 Sherrard, but Clark is his primary guy. He's got the Indy offensive line and then the Giants offensive line, and that's pretty much it. So I wish he had, I'm going to keep saying this for the higher PS guys, I just wish he had more speed, but he has speed in Gray, but he doesn't have anyone he can even put in at running back to spell Gray. There's no 44 MS guy or whatever. Plus, I mean, he kind of went all in on Hendricks on defense here. Just because Romanowski, I don't actually think Romanowski is 38 RS. I don't think he has a 38 RS linebacker. Does he?
No, he doesn't.
So, I mean, comes into question the whole diving from LB4 thing. But regardless, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to do well like he always does. But I think I've done the jumbo thing. I love it. I think I had Tony Page and Craig Hayward on one team. That was fun. But it's just going to require him to do a lot of running or dump offs or whatever. So my guess is he's going to be scrambling a lot too with Boomer. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think he did pretty well considering his draft spot. So he went with more of a luxury with Boomer, I think. So that's got to be one of his guys, So with him and Gray, it's a grindy offense, but it's going to be a plus offense that I think people will have be tough to stop without picking some plays. The real question, obviously, is the defense. It's Hendricks or bust, and he's got to try to make that work somehow. But yeah, he's a really talented player, and obviously a super nice guy. So I'm always rooting for him. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah. So last but not least, we are on to my team. So it is the condition state check Mark Wilson, Mark Rippon show. Wilson will be the starter. Grabbed Muster and Gale. So what I did is I played QB chicken. I actually wrote on the doc and I was kind of pissed off that of all people, Randy Wags, who also had a crappy QB this season, took the last 44 guy. And I was kind of angry when Nas took Ware, but I mean, I knew Ware would go, but it just seemed like a whole bunch of guys that were playing QB chicken, and we just didn't. So I chose to bolster the rest of my team instead of grab a QB. So instead of having 44 guys, I've got 38-44 guys. I got Muster to play tight end, obviously, and Gale, which is a good drone from Chicago. Marcus Allen, Eddie Anderson pick, which Anderson will be my primary man DB, and Marcus Allen. So good to have a 56 MS running back. It's been a little while since I think I've had an above average running back. And then Harold Green is just an automatic pick. So it's Breton or Rolling. And then Ryzen. Ryzen was my big thing. I took Ryzen instead of the Jeffries Childress thing because I thought it was the right thing to do when it came to using his game-changing speed. So that led me to take O'Neal as my linebacker. So the big thing for me is I started the OL run, and I took Minnesota to block, and obviously I have good blocking. Plus, it gives me Steve Jordan, which I'll play at wide receiver too. So I'll have Mustard tight end and Jordan at wide receiver too, as well as the good Minnesota offensive line. And then coming back home, Richard Dent and the boys, the Chicago DL, which even turned out better than I thought it would be. Which I think I was a second DL pick behind Tadeos' Raiders, and it turned out well for me because on the whole, my DL matches up very well with the offensive lines in my division. So, plus I can man Dent in the nickel again, so that's exciting as well. You kind of saw against Gatz how my defensive line was just kind of all over him. So, I like my team. I think I sacrificed some depth at the drone level to get some man guys. I worked hard. I forgot to mention I took Vaughn Johnson to go on the other side of O'Neal, so I could have a jumbo line. So I've got 69. I've got 69, 63, 63, 69, 69. I'm sorry, 63, 63, 69, 63 on my 5 people on the line. So it's going to be an interesting season. Hoping to throw some bombs to Ryzen and have a good run game with Allen. But what do you think about my team?
Yeah, I think the only other thing is the 50 max speed kick returner.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Line.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So with Mustard, that's going to be a mint.
Yeah, so I think that at worst you'll have field position advantages. So there's that element too. It's significant. I mean, it's a super kick returner. Obviously the weakest point is the quarterback spot. But two pretty similar guys that you can play conditions with. I actually had both those guys one season when I had Barry Sanders, so I was more of a running team. But the only thing is a little bit slower passing speed, but they both have 44 PC, which goes well with Ryzen. And that's instant offense anywhere in the field. So again, we mentioned balanced teams. I think this is a really balanced team with elite players in key spots with Marcus Allen and Ryzen, obviously. And then the defense with the hitting power is pretty fun too. So I really like it. It looks like a fun team.
Yeah, it's going to be. I was pretty happy with this draft. I mean, obviously, I wish I had a little bit more depth in the secondary specifically. But what are you going to do? I think after the team, getting to the AFC Championship game with the team I have now, I never thought that would happen. Granted, I got some Tecmo luck and what have you, but in backdoor to the playoffs, and as Matt said, I'm backdooring everybody. So I would. I feel like it's Farrah Abraham, that chick from Teen Mom, and the backdoor show she did or whatever. But anyway, regardless, I'm pretty happy with this team. I think after having a season of throwing with a 31 PS guy and somewhat successfully doing it, I kind of think I'm a little bit more comfortable now with these quarterbacks. So now we just reviewed everybody. Why don't we try to do no projections, no predictions, but you would probably say your favorite team and then your least favorite team. We don't do best and worst because that's subjective. So which is your favorite team and which is your least favorite team?
Oh, man, that's hard to choose. Now that I'm trying to think back on all of them. Man. I don't know, maybe least favorite might be Barletti, just the way it's put together isn't my favorite. And in terms of what would be my favorite, I do actually like, I'm not just sucking up to you, but I actually do like the Bills quite a bit. That one looks pretty good to me. Oh, man. Again, I think Drake's team, just getting that Brooks Fulcher pick, I really like his team quite a bit too. It's just the Steve Young thing. So I don't know, where are you at?
I'm going to say one of my favorites, I kind of said already, and I'll Brew already mentioned it too to me, and I said it to you guys, but I'm a fan of Tecmo Bowe's team. I think that his team is well put together. But I think my problem this season, in which it's just, we just came from a season where everyone hit holes because we were drafting full position groups. And so to see, there's a lot of well-balanced teams this season compared to usual. So this past season was, aside from, the AFC playoffs race, was especially in the NFC, was the have and have-nots. And I think this season is going to be a lot more parity when it comes to the teams. The cream will rise to the crop. Or cream will rise to the top. I just said cream rise to the crop. That's crazy. The cream will rise to the top like it always does. But I think that, that the team, it won't necessarily be as much of a team deficit as it is. Yeah, I don't, it's tough. I kind of said it as I was going along. I like Randy Wag's team. I like, I said Tecmo Bowe. I like Nas's team too. Although, Yeah, I kind of like Nas's team too. I'm just not sure. It's tough because everyone has a balanced team for the most part. I mean, I'd say my least favorite, and I'm not just saying this because of what I already said, but it's just because it's not built for me, is Game High's team. Like, I love me Warren Moon.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Game High.
I love me Warren Moon, and I mean I could do work with that offense, but that defense, I just can't be. I can't be a linebacker based defense. It's just not going to work for me. I mean,
I
so
forgot about Randy Wags. That is really a really good team too. I agree. It looks really good, and
plus that team is built right for him. I would say, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I'm good there. So, go ahead.
Just throwing another shout out to War Machine. I think, especially with this draft spot, he still got some pretty impactful players and a pretty balanced team that I think is pretty complete as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I do like the value picks he got in his offensive line and his defensive line. I mean, I don't like the 38 HP guy he has, pardon me, on that defensive line or on offensive line, but Novacek kind of made his team, and I think it's going to be more than enough for him. So, but, well, I think that's pretty much it here, man. Anything you want to add about my anything else you want to add about this draft before we go on to something else real quick?
No, I think it's a fun format. Always good to mix it up and pair different players. So, my question would be: is it worth drafting again 2 years in a row just to give other people a chance at this type of draft? Maybe, but it looked like a fun one with some cool tandems, and it also leads to some thinking. Like, I already drafted an LB1, so I can't take another LB1. So you have to kind of factor that in, which is something that I kind of appreciate. Maybe other guys thought that was an added challenge, but I thought it kept it interesting and maybe kept it a little more balanced and again a little more predictable for some people. So I thought it was a fun format. Yeah,
the 3 drafts I'm thinking of for the next season are running this back, as I already said, running it back, except swapping, the defensive backs and linebackers. So basically, it'd be running back, linebacker, and wide receiver, defensive back. I don't know off the top of my head what super tandems that would create, but pardon me. And then also maybe going to more traditional format where it'd be like QB1, running back 1, running back 2, and then backups, and kind of just do like linebacker 1 and 3, 2 and 4, like old style, like people used to do. So we'll see. What are your thoughts now on the Buffalo Bills in season 45 making to the AFC Championship game? I mean, I know you've been a staunch Bills supporter of mine for over the years. So, I mean, can you believe of all the teams, and this is going to really make Big Cock happy, of all the teams I've ever had, that this team with Jack Trudeau as my quarterback has made it to the AFC Championship game. Jack Trudeau. Yeah. I mean, Jack got a little drunk and couldn't, he got a little drunk against Diaz, and, Jeff had to come in and wipe his ass and save him. But Jack did work against Gatz. So, what do you think?
Well, I think your defense did some work against Gatz, and the stripping him for a couple of fumbles didn't hurt either. But the defense, to me, in watching that game, was a marked difference. And even Richard Dent got a pick from his nickelback position there too. So I have to say, I mean, I never would have guessed. And as much as we bashed the drafting of that team too, that he made this nice deep run here so far, I guess it's no offense to you in any way, or anyone really. I wouldn't have guessed anyone would take that team that far.
Yeah, it's something, man. I mean, I really did backdoor in the playoffs. So it's the fact that I'm still there. I mean, I don't think I match up well versus Tecmo Bowl at all. Tecmo Bowl beat me handily in the season, although I did come within 1 score because I scored in the last play of the game. But I think I have to get lucky against Tecmo Bowl. Like I had to get lucky against Gats. I think if Tecmo Bowl fumbled against me twice, I could probably move the ball on him a bit because unlike Randy Wags, I have a home run threat to Nuggets. So it's going to be interesting to say the least against Tecmo Bow. Kudos to War Machine for taking it to Zur. I didn't actually watch the game. I watched the very end of it, but from what I was told, except for the very end, War Machine dominated that game. So good for him. Excited to see what happens with Nas and Jesus. But with the 5 teams left, what do you think is going to happen? I'm going to pick everyone to beat me. So I think Tecmo Bow is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. But what do you think is going to happen in the NFC?
Yeah, I wish I had a little more insight to offer you because without having it in front of me, I don't even know what they have in their team. But just knowing those players, I think anyone can beat anyone out of those 4, obviously. So without knowing who they have, I couldn't even gander a guess. But I know that Nas has just been on fire lately. So if I was to guess, that would be my offering.
Well,
so.
My pick early before the season was it was going to be a Gats and War Machine rematch. And so obviously I ruined that from the Gats perspective, but I definitely think War Machine is going to represent the NFC, and I actually am going to pick him to win it all and stick with that pick I had early in the season. But anyway, we'll see how that plays out. And that's pretty much it. So as always, man, thanks for doing this with me. And
Yes.
I don't know. I'll probably do another pod to do predictions a little bit. It's kind of tough because once you go through it, it's just like, what's the point? But maybe I can get Brewdog on to talk about using his the predictor that he uses to kind of go with that route instead of like going over teams again. So it's going to be an interesting season to say the least. And I know everyone's getting real excited to get started. We just got to wait for these playoffs to be over. So. As always, man, thank you for coming on. Feel free to come back anytime. We don't always have to talk Tecmo, or if you want to talk different parts of Tecmo or tournaments or whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be HSTL all the time. So,
all right, sounds good.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. I kept it under 2.5 hours, I think, looking at the stats right now. I even mentioned Jack Trudeau for Big Cock. So that's going to be... That's going to be good. So, in any event, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a long listen. Feel free to talk about it a lot in the HSTL channel or whatever. And that's it. And I should have the first round generated off the website tonight. So, okay. Until next time, guys. Hoff out.